Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into the United States.
Oh, interesting.
And we're going beyond just the headlines and statistics.
Okay.
We've got some really cool sources. Some of them are even in Spanish and German. So
yeah.
we're gonna get some different perspectives on the U.S.
I like it.
It's gonna be like exploring, a gem
Okay.
with all these different facets.
Right.
Each one reveals a new and surprising aspect of this country.
Yeah.
We'll be looking at geography, history, economics, the government, culture,
Nice.
even a little bit on tourism.
Oh, fun.
It's going to be a really fascinating look at the U.S.
Yeah, it's a chance to kind of see it through different lenses, right?
Exactly.
See how it's perceived from outside its borders.
That's what we're going for.
I'm excited.
So as we get started on this journey,
Yeah.
when you think about the U.S.,
Okay.
what comes to mind?
Well, to really understand the U.S., I think you have to start with its size. It's huge. Did you know it's the fourth largest country in the whole world by total area?
Wow, that's impressive.
It is. And within that area,
Yeah.
you have some incredible geographical diversity.
Okay.
Like, take Alaska, for example. It's separated from the mainland, right?
Right.
It has these stunning glaciers and these rugged mountains.
Wow.
Then there's Hawaii,
Yeah.
which is a Polynesian archipelago in the middle of the Pacific,
Right.
offering these, tropical beaches and volcanic landscapes. That's pretty unique, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a continent unto itself,
Right.
And speaking of diversity,
Yes.
the climates are just as varied.
Oh, yeah.
You go from continental climates with 4 distinct seasons
Right.
to subtropical zones,
Yeah.
even tropical islands and arid
I
deserts.
got it all.
It's really incredible.
And there's more.
More.
The U.S. also has these territories, right?
Okay.
Scattered across the Caribbean and the Pacific, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands,
Okay.
and even a tiny little-known territory called Palmyra Atoll.
Palmyra Atoll.
Yeah, adds another layer to the whole thing,
It really does. It's amazing how much is packed into one country.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's move on to the history.
Okay, sounds good.
Where do we even begin with a nation with so many layers of history? You know what I mean?
Well, I think we have to start with the Spanish arrival in 1513.
Okay.
I mean, they were the first Europeans to set foot on what would become U.S. soil.
Wow, 1513.
It's early.
Yeah.
But it's the English settlements over a century later
Right.
that really laid the foundation for the nation we know today. Places like Jamestown in 1607, Plymouth in 1620, those were kind of the seeds of a future superpower, right?
Yeah, that's it's fascinating how those tiny settlements,
Right.
turned into this global superpower.
Absolutely. And of course, those early settlements came with their own, tensions and conflicts.
Oh yeah.
There were a lot of different groups with different ideas, all trying to, carve out their own space.
That makes sense. And that simmering tension eventually
Yeah.
erupted into the American Revolution
Exactly.
and the Declaration of Independence in 1776.
A pivotal moment.
For sure.
All men are created equal. Remember those words?
I do.
Powerful stuff, right?
It is.
Became a cornerstone of American identity.
Yeah, a beacon of hope.
For many, yes. But also, a source of ongoing struggle as the nation tried to figure out what that really meant, how to apply it.
Absolutely. It's a powerful statement that still resonates today.
For sure.
And then from there, we see the westward expansion, that push towards the Pacific.
Right, Manifest Destiny and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Driven by this belief that it was their right, their destiny to expand across the continent.
And that era is perfectly captured by the Gateway Arch.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
Built in 1965, but it really embodies that spirit of westward movement. A literal archway towards new frontiers.
It's a reminder of that ambition and drive that shaped the nation.
Absolutely.
It's an iconic image for sure. But as the U.S. expanded,
Yeah,
those internal tensions, especially around slavery,
right.
couldn't be ignored forever.
You're right, and that brings us to the Civil War. Really a defining moment in U.S. history, a turning point.
Absolutely.
Not just in terms of, federal power,
Okay.
but in the struggle for racial equality as well.
And this is where things get really interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
We see 3 new amendments to the Constitution,
Right.
guaranteeing freedom to nearly 4 million formerly enslaved people.
A monumental shift.
It is, but the story doesn't end there.
No, not at all.
The 1876 election, which was really contested, and then the Jim Crow laws.
Right, which was basically a system of segregation.
And that lasted until 1965.
A long time.
Yeah, a long time. It's a stark reminder of how complex
Yeah,
and at times contradictory U.S. history can be.
absolutely. On one hand, you have the striving for equality. Right.
But on the other hand, you have policies that denied that equality to millions of citizens.
It's a reminder that progress isn't always linear, you know? It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometimes.
Absolutely.
So, from the ashes of the Civil War,
Yeah,
the U.S. emerges as a global power.
that's right.
And that trajectory is solidified by its involvement in World War I and World War II.
Right, starting from a position of neutrality in both conflicts, but ultimately playing a decisive role and emerging as a true global superpower.
And then came the Cold War,
Right, that decades-long rivalry with the Soviet Union.
a clash of ideologies.
It shaped the entire world.
What's fascinating to me about the Cold War is that it wasn't just this military standoff, you know.
Right.
It was also this battle of ideas.
Exactly.
Democracy versus communism, capitalism versus state control.
Absolutely.
And those ideological battles played out everywhere.
On a global scale, yeah, influencing everything.
Politics, economics, culture, even technology.
It was a time of immense tension and anxiety.
It's also, you know, incredible innovation and progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us to the 21st century.
Right. A whole new set of challenges and uncertainties.
We can't talk about the U.S. in the 21st century without talking about 9/11.
Of course not.
It changed everything, really.
It changed the nation's psyche, its foreign policy.
Yeah, it's very sense of security.
Absolutely. And in the wake of 9/11,
Yeah.
you see the war on terror, the invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq,
Right.
conflicts with complex legacies that we're still grappling with today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to understand the U.S. response to these events,
Yeah.
I think we need to understand how its government works.
Right, the political structure.
Exactly. You often hear the U.S. government described as a constitutional republic.
Okay.
It's the oldest federation in the world, actually.
Really?
Yeah. And it operates on this system of checks and balances.
Checks and balances.
Yeah, it's designed to prevent any one branch from having too much power.
Okay, break that down for me. There are 3 branches of government.
That's right. You have the legislative branch,
Uh-huh.
which is Congress.
Hmm.
Their job is to make the laws.
Okay.
And Congress is divided into 2 parts, the Senate and the House of Representatives.
Got it. So Congress makes the laws, then what?
Then you have the executive branch,
Okay.
which is headed by the president.
Right.
And the president's job is to carry out those laws, to enforce them.
Make sure they're put into practice.
Exactly. And then there's the third branch,
Right, is
the judicial branch.
Okay.
Their role is to interpret the laws, you know, decide what they mean
Yeah.
and figure out whether or not they're constitutional.
Okay.
The highest court in the land is the Supreme Court.
Right.
And they actually have the power to overturn laws if they find them in conflict with the Constitution.
Wow, that's a lot of power.
It is.
So it's really important.
It's crucial to understand that all 3 branches
Yeah.
operate within this framework of the Constitution,
Okay.
which is the supreme law of the land. And state governments play a role too, which adds another layer of complexity.
So it's a balancing act.
It is.
Designed to make sure the power is distributed, you know.
Exactly.
No
dude.
single entity dominates.
That's the idea.
It sounds like
Yeah.
a fascinating system for sure.
Very intricate.
But alongside this this complex government,
Yeah.
the US also has this massive military and intelligence apparatus.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And the numbers are kind of staggering.
They are over 870 overseas bases
Wow.
and 37.5% of global military spending.
That's more than any other country.
It is.
Those figures are just mind-blowing.
They are.
And what about the intelligence community?
Oh, that's vast as well.
Is it
17 intelligence agencies in total.
17?
Yep. CIA is just the tip of the iceberg.
Wow.
Think of the resources involved,
Yeah.
the capabilities,
Yeah.
the sheer manpower.
To maintain that level of global influence.
It's impressive.
It really is.
Yeah.
And yet, alongside all this military and intelligence,
Yeah.
you see this nation also grappling with internal challenges.
That's right. Economic disparities,
Mhm.
social issues, things like that.
You're right. The U.S. has the largest national economy,
In nominal terms, yeah.
accounting for like a quarter of global GDP.
It's a huge chunk of the world's economy.
But that wealth isn't always evenly distributed.
That's true.
So it's kind of a mixed bag.
It is. It's a capitalist nation at its core.
Yeah.
But it also has these social welfare programs,
Yeah.
which are designed to provide a safety net for its citizens.
Right.
But despite that, the U.S. faces these really serious challenges.
Such as?
Poverty, lack of universal health care,
Uh-huh.
high incarceration rates,
Right.
persistent income inequality.
It's a complex picture. Makes you wonder how a nation with so much wealth and power
Yeah.
can also struggle with these deep-seated social and economic issues.
Great question. And to understand that, I think we need to look at American culture, its values, its beliefs, its contradictions.
Yeah, I'm ready for that deep dive. Let's explore what makes American culture so unique
Okay.
and how it shapes the nation's identity, both domestically and on the world stage.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, American culture, it's really a fascinating tapestry,
It is.
woven from so many different threads.
Yeah.
It's a nation built on immigration, right?
Right.
A melting pot of ethnicities and traditions and values.
Absolutely.
And you see that diversity reflected in every aspect of American life, really.
Look, for sure. The food, the music, the art.
Even the politics.
It's like this giant kaleidoscope.
It is.
Constantly shifting and changing.
Absolutely.
So where do we even begin to unpack all of that?
Well, our sources highlight a few key themes.
Okay, like what?
One of the big ones is this emphasis on individualism
Okay.
and personal freedom.
Individualism, yeah, I can see that.
Americans tend to prioritize their own needs and goals,
Over the needs of the group.
Exactly.
Which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
When you think about their history,
Absolutely.
westward expansion, carving out their own destinies.
Right. It's that rugged individualism you see in movies and books.
Exactly.
But that focus on individual freedom,
Yeah.
it can also create challenges. Well, things like income inequality and a reluctance to embrace things like, strong social safety nets.
Right, because that would be seen as
Yeah,
interfering with individual freedom.
exactly. It's a trade-off.
It is.
Yeah, sure.
Individual liberty versus collective responsibility.
Right.
It seems like that's like a recurring theme.
It is. It runs throughout American history and culture.
And it's something that visitors to the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
often find kind of puzzling.
They do. It's a very different way of thinking for a lot of people.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what else can we learn about American culture from these sources?
Well, another thing that stands out is their mobility.
Mobility.
Yeah, Americans are constantly on the move.
For work, for family.
For opportunity, you name it.
Right. Always looking for something better.
It's reflected in things like their high car ownership rates.
Yeah, everyone has a car in America.
Pretty much.
Or two.
Or three.
And their extensive highway system.
Right, you can drive from coast to coast.
Which brings us to
Yeah.
the classic American road trip.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
That journey of self-discovery.
Right, experiencing the vastness of the country.
It's almost like a cultural ritual,
It is, and it speaks to that sense of adventure
Yeah.
that's so deeply embedded in American culture.
Absolutely. And speaking of vastness, let's talk about the American economy.
Okay, the economic powerhouse.
It is. There's no doubt about it.
The largest economy in the world by nominal GDP.
Wow.
It accounts for a huge chunk of global output.
And it has a significant impact on international trade.
Oh, absolutely.
But as we touched on earlier,
Yeah.
it's not all sunshine and roses.
Right, there are those persistent issues.
Yeah, poverty, healthcare access, income inequality.
Those are real challenges.
They are, and they can't be ignored.
Absolutely not. But it's important to also acknowledge the strengths of the U.S. economy.
Okay, like what?
Well, their workforce is highly skilled.
That's true.
They have a really strong entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, lots of startups and innovation.
And a culture of innovation, exactly.
So it's kind of a mixed bag.
It is.
A land of contrasts and contradictions.
Absolutely. That's what makes it so interesting, right?
It does. It's a nation that's constantly pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
striving for progress, but also grappling with its own internal struggles. It seems like that tension,
Yeah.
that push and pull between ideals and realities.
It's a recurring theme
It is.
in American history and culture.
And it's something that, visitors need to be aware of.
They do.
The U.S. isn't like this monolithic entity,
Right.
It's a complex and diverse nation.
With a rich and often turbulent past.
Absolutely. And that complexity is reflected in their political system as well.
Oh, for sure.
We talked about the structure earlier, the three branches, the checks and balances.
Yeah.
But how does it actually work in practice?
Right.
Can you give us some examples of those checks and balances at work?
Sure. One example is the power of the Supreme Court
Okay.
to declare laws unconstitutional.
Right. Judicial review.
Exactly. That's a major check on the power of both Congress and the president.
So even if Congress passes a law
Yeah.
and the president signs it,
Uh-huh.
if the Supreme Court says it's unconstitutional,
It's gone.
it's gone.
That's it.
That's a pretty powerful check.
It is. It highlights the importance of the judicial branch in upholding the rule of law and protecting individual rights.
Are there other examples of these checks and balances?
Of course. Another one is the president's veto power.
Okay, so if Congress passes a bill
Yeah.
that the president doesn't like,
Uh-huh.
they can just veto it.
Veto it, yep, prevents it from becoming law. But Congress can override that veto?
They can.
Yeah, with the 2/3 majority vote in both the Senate and the House of Representatives.
So there's like this back and forth.
It is.
This constant negotiation.
Exactly. It's a dynamic system designed to make sure no one branch gets too powerful.
And all of this is grounded in the Constitution,
Absolutely. The Constitution is the bedrock.
the foundation.
Exactly. It outlines the fundamental principles and structures of the government.
It's fascinating to see how that system has evolved over time
It is.
and how it shapes politics today.
Absolutely.
But beyond those formal structures,
Yeah.
you also have things like public opinion,
Right.
political parties, interest groups.
All playing a role.
It's a whole ecosystem.
It is. American politics is complex,
It is.
with a lot of players and influences.
And we can't forget the media,
Oh yeah, the media plays a huge role,
both traditional and social media.
shaping the narrative,
Absolutely.
influencing the debate.
It's up to the citizens, really,
Yeah,
to critically evaluate the information they're getting.
to think for themselves.
Yeah. And engage in thoughtful dialogue,
Even when they disagree.
even when they disagree.
Absolutely.
And that's crucial, right?
It is, that ability to engage in civil discourse.
To debate ideas without resorting to personal attacks.
Or violence.
Yeah, that's essential for a healthy democracy.
I couldn't agree more.
It seems like there's always this tension,
There is.
between competing viewpoints in American politics.
Yeah, push and pull between different ideologies and interests.
And that tension is part of what makes American democracy so dynamic
It is.
and also so challenging at times.
It is. It's a constant work in progress,
It is.
This never-ending experiment in self-governance.
And it can be pretty unpredictable.
It can. It keeps you on your toes.
Visitors to the U.S. often find it pretty perplexing.
I can imagine. It's a very different system than what many people are used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of visitors,
Okay.
our sources also touch on the U.S. as a tourist destination.
Oh, yeah, it's a popular one.
It is. People come from all over the world
To see the sights.
to experience those diverse landscapes, the vibrant cities, the unique cultural attractions.
And they have good reason to come.
They do. The U.S. has something to offer everyone, really.
From bustling cities to national parks.
Historical landmarks, museums, entertainment venues.
It's a country that can really capture your imagination.
It can. So if you were planning a trip to the U.S.,
Okay.
what would you recommend? What are some of the must-see destinations?
Well, that's the thing about the U.S. There really is something for everyone.
That's true.
But for a first-time visitor,
Yeah.
I think you got to hit up some of the classics,
Okay, give me the top picks.
Okay, well, for starters,
Yeah,
there's New York City.
of course.
It's the, quintessential American metropolis.
It is.
With that iconic skyline and those bustling streets.
Yeah, it's a city that never sleeps.
It doesn't. And then you've got, world-class museums,
Uh-huh.
Broadway shows, incredible food from literally all over the globe.
It's overwhelming, but in a good way.
Right. But maybe you want something a little more laid back.
Yeah, some nature, maybe.
In that case, you have to experience the national parks.
Okay, which ones? There are so many.
So many. Yellowstone,
Okay.
with its geysers and wildlife.
Yeah.
Yosemite, with those towering granite cliffs and giant sequoia trees.
Oh, I've seen pictures of those. They're incredible.
They are. And of course, the Grand Canyon.
Can't forget the Grand Canyon.
It's an awe-inspiring natural wonder. Really gives you a sense of the scale and beauty of the American landscape.
I'm getting wanderlust just thinking about it.
Me too.
Okay, so we've got the big city, we've got the great outdoors.
Yep.
What about something in between?
Okay.
Maybe a city with a little more history.
Well, how about Boston?
Boston, yeah.
Steeped in history.
Yeah, cobblestone streets, colonial architecture.
That's right. Plus, fantastic seafood, a really lively art scene.
Or Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, good one.
All that southern charm and those beautiful antebellum homes.
And delicious low country cuisine.
Now we're talking.
And for something completely unique,
Yeah.
you got to visit New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah.
It's unlike anywhere else in the U.S., really.
What makes it so special?
Well, it's like this amazing melting pot of cultures.
Okay.
It's got a vibrant music scene, delicious Creole food.
Oh, yeah, the food is supposed to be incredible.
It is. And just this really festive atmosphere, you know?
You're making me hungry just thinking about it.
Me too.
It's incredible how much variety there is within a single country.
It is.
Seems like you could spend a lifetime exploring the U.S.
You could, and still only scratch the surface.
That's what's so exciting about it.
Exactly. There's always something new to discover.
Always another adventure around the corner.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive here,
Okay.
what were some of the things that really stood out to you from these sources?
Well, one thing that really struck me was the emphasis on education in the U.S. Yeah, they have this long tradition of higher education,
Right.
and some of the best universities in the world.
Oh, absolutely. Harvard, Yale, Stanford, MIT.
Exactly, names that are recognized globally.
For sure.
But it's not just about those elite institutions.
Us.
They also have a really strong network of community colleges
Right.
and state universities, making higher education more accessible, you know?
Yeah, which is so important, right?
It is for a society that really values innovation and progress.
Absolutely, giving people those opportunities to learn and grow
Yeah, it's essential.
for economic growth and social mobility.
Couldn't agree more.
Another thing that I found interesting was
Yeah.
that complex relationship the U.S. has with race and ethnicity.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's a nation built on immigration, right?
Right.
But also a nation with this history of slavery.
And racial discrimination.
Exactly. And that tension, that legacy.
It still plays out today.
It does. It's a reminder that even with all its progress,
All its achievements
the U.S. still has these deep-seated inequalities.
and systemic challenges.
Absolutely.
It's something that visitors should be aware of.
Especially if they're coming from a culture that's more homogenous.
It's all part of understanding the U.S., I think.
Yeah,
Recognizing both the strengths and the weaknesses,
absolutely.
the triumphs and the failures.
Well said.
I think the U.S. is a nation of contradictions.
I think you're right.
It's a place of incredible opportunity, but also immense challenges.
Yeah, deep divisions, but also these unifying ideals.
It's constantly evolving,
It is, always in flux.
never quite what you expect.
That's a great way to put it.
It's a country that keeps you guessing, keeps you learning,
And ultimately,
keeps you wanting more.
I think that's the key takeaway.
It
The
is
U.S. is a nation worth exploring,
worth understanding
worth engaging with.
in all its complexity and contradiction.
Absolutely.
Well, on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the United States.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. We hope you've enjoyed the journey.
I have.
We encourage you to keep exploring.
There's always more to learn.